Tuesday training. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday training, where we meet practitioners of both manual and movement practices meet every week to talk functional anatomy and structural balancing, which we're going to talk about today, and also how to get our clients out of pain and keep them out of pain, how to prevent them from being in pain in the first place. I'm so glad that you guys are here. Hey, Lisa, I'm glad you're joining me live. Welcome to everyone who's here. I am your host for the hour. I am Gina Schatz. I am going to pour into you on this very exciting topic so that we can really get into the nitty-gritty of working orthopedically and creating change, making corrections, doing the deed, if you will, for our clients, especially the persistent pain clients, the ones that we get them a little bit better, but then they keep coming back. So today's that topic for you. I'm happy to have you here in-house. Lisa, thanks for being here in the club seats. I'm glad to see you live. For those of you who are watching live on the YouTube channel, welcome. I'm just opening up my app here to make sure that I can follow along with you in the chat. Please feel free to ask any questions along the way, whether you're here live or not, and I will answer them for you. We are here every week, and this week is a culmination of the few weeks before this. It's also a culmination of the learning that we have been doing so far this month in our club focus, which has been on functional anatomy and maximizing the lever system and knowing where to interject. So, hey, Gary, I'm glad you're here live. Nice to see you. So this idea here is of today's topic is a blend, if you will, of a few important focal points that we've covered together, both here on Practitioner Training Tuesday and also in our club, as I mentioned. And so we're going to bring it all together. If you're just tuning in for the first time, you've only seen us for the first time, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And you might need to fill in the few spots along the way. So we'll do that as we're workshopping out our information for today. And absolutely stop me at any time and make sure I can answer the questions for you, because I'm happy to do that. Okay, I'm not quite seeing what I want to see yet on my side, but that's okay. I'm sure it'll populate soon. Yeah, great. All right, before we dive into the topic being, what do you do first? Do you restore function first, or do you restore structural balance first? And we're going to dive into what those two are and what to do first if you're working through someone's chronic pain. And I want to emphasize here, this is appropriate for both manual and movement practitioners. That's the happy lane that I like to toggle. And the reason why it applies to both, not only because it's anatomy based, but for the movement practitioners in the room, you want to make sure that you understand what optimal function is, so that you're instructing it, but also preventing pain. Hey, Cheryl, glad you're here. When you're a movement practitioner and you're optimizing function, you are literally teaching the body and being a shepherd to the way the body moves. And that is medicine. Movement is medicine. So if we're moving the way we're designed, not only is it medicine, there won't be any pain. But if there is pain when we're moving, that means there's something off in the movement, either the way we're moving or the way we're not moving, or something that we're doing in the movement. Why and how that applies to manual practitioners is because at that juncture is when the clients come to us with pain, because something in the way they were moving or the way they weren't moving caused the pain and discomfort. And now they're with us, and the work that we do is more passive, meaning the client's not doing the active moving. They're presenting with the pain that's preventing them from moving, and we're supposed to solve it. So in order to solve that, we need to know what the movement was, what the movement was supposed to be, and also it helps us know what to target then. Because by the time they come to us as manual practitioners, they're coming to us with symptoms, and symptoms aren't the source of the pain. Symptoms are the symptom of the pain. So this conversation that we're going to have today equally is relevant to both manual and movement practitioners. And every week really is, but this one for sure. This one is, what do I actually do about it? I love this question. Gina, I have a client with XYZ. What do I do about it? This is what you do about it. And the sourcing, how to get to that answer, is the same for both manual and movement practitioners. So I love when we can come together and talk about it in this way. And I'm still looking, you guys, for those of you who are here on YouTube. I know you're watching live. I just can't get to the tab for some reason. It's not populating, but I want to be able to answer your questions as well. as we move through here. So give me 1 second while I click one more time and see. Here it is. There it is. It's always the third click. I don't know why it's always the third click. So hi guys, I can see you here on YouTube. I'm glad you're here. I can now see the comment section in the chat, so feel free to use that. And of course, those of you who are here with me live in the club seats, you can use the chat here too, or just come off mute as we're moving through. All right, so we're going to dive into this really important troubleshooting, if you will, what to do with clients. And as always, we are pinning it to win it today. Pin it to win it is a game that we play to encourage you to be happy about your time spent here. And also, when you pin the letters throughout the training, they will collectively make up a word. You pin that word in the comment section below this video on YouTube, and I will then send you a no strings attached extra training. Now, I know there's a couple of you here who've pinned for the last few weeks. You guys are so good at this and so hungry for more that I actually have to create more training for you to send you. So if you've been waiting for a week or two, hat tip to you, I acknowledge you, and I am going to send you extra training. It just is going to be by the end of this week because you're gobbling it up so fast. I think it's great. I'm keeping a list so I don't send you the same thing twice because that wouldn't be super fun. So if you want extra training, no strings attached, pin to win at the bottom of the YouTube video, the word that you've seen spelled out during the training today. Make sure that we have your email address and I will ship you over some bonus training for you. All right, so that's what we're going to play today in the midst of this beautiful conversation on, do we restore function first or do we balance the structure first? Let's get into it. So first, it's always helpful when you're describing something to know what the something is, because I find that a lot of clarity can come in just making sure we're on the same topic, right? So when you guys are here, when you hear a restored function, what comes to mind for you? It's a bit of a general phrase, so it's worth it to make sure that we're clear on what actually is that, so that you know whether you should be doing it first or second. So what comes to mind for you when you hear restored function? I'm sure there's going to be a variety of viewpoints on what that phrase means. Anything come to mind for you guys in the club seats here? And if you're watching us live on YouTube, you can post that in the chat as well. There's no wrong answers. I just really want to know what comes to mind for you when you hear that phrase, restored function. What do you got, Gary?
Just in general, we're talking about a desired movement. It's whatever the body wants to do, pain-free. And that's just a very general can I pick up? Can I move? Can I walk? I think of that as function.
Love it. Okay, that's great. Thanks for getting us started. Anyone else? What does restored function mean to you?
If you're restoring it, it means to me that you've lost it at some point. So you're bringing it back again, right? To restore again, to bring it back. Okay. So coming back to optimal function.
Love it. Okay, beautiful. So Cheryl, you focused on the restored part. Gary, you focused on the function part. Both are equally valid. And I also love that I know that Gary is a manual practitioner, Cheryl, you're a movement practitioner, and it applies to both, right? That's what I was sharing at the top of our time together. This idea about restoring function applies to both manual and movement practitioners. So yeah, I love this for you guys. Anybody else want to add anything? I'm looking at the chat here if you guys are typing into YouTube. Anybody want to add anything between these running definitions we have on restoring function, restoring it because we lost it, function because it's movement? Okay, beautiful. I will add that everything you guys said, yes. And when we get to the restoring part, the focus that I want you to have is, how did it go wrong? Because we have identified that when we're restoring it, it's because we lost it, as you said, Cheryl, and you are going to get a ton of value in what you're going to do about restoring that function if you also allow yourself to identify, how did it go wrong? How did we lose it in the first place? There's a plethora of value in the answer to that question. And the answer will come from the person's body, right? What they did, what they didn't do, what they've experienced, what they didn't experience, what they need, what they don't need. So definitely make sure that if you are looking to restore function or corrective movement or corrective exercise or addressing muscles that do the movement. These are all phrases that apply to the same thing. When you're doing all of those things, make sure you've also identified how did the function become lost in the first place. Make sure you get there, okay? And that'll be case by case. We have done some case studies here on Tuesday training, and they're always fun to do, and there's a lot of brain power involved there. But it will be unique to the person in front of you. You got to ask the right questions, hear the right information, synthesize that information, and know what it means. But there is still a worthwhile approach to getting that answer, okay? So once you have that answer, how did this function get to a place where it needs to be restored? Then now you're in the, okay, now I'm going to restore the function. And now the question for today is, do I restore the function first, or do I balance the structure first? So what do you guys hear when you hear the phrase balance the structure or structural balancing? They're very interchangeable. What comes to mind for you around structural balancing? How would you define that? And same thing for you guys here on YouTube. Let us know in the chat. What comes to mind for you when you hear structural balance? Go ahead, Gary.
Four curves is the first thing I think about. And
You've been
sacral balance and four curves. Yeah.
I feel like you've been drinking the TSM Kool-Aid, Gary. I love it.
I have.
You have, exactly. Yeah. Yep. So balancing the structure, four curves of the axial skeleton. Great. What else comes to mind for you guys when you hear this phrase, structural balance?
Alignment.
Alignment.
Optimal alignment. Yep. Not only the four curves, but in all movement, all structural bone alignment.
Yeah. So like the external and internal alignment we talked about, Cheryl, last week. I think it was last week here.
Yeah.
That's what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So yeah, and if you guys are watching for the first time and haven't seen that, it's really valuable to figure out what internal versus external alignment means. And it applies again to manual and movement practitioners from a slightly different angle, but it still applies. So yes, I love this alignment of the structure, both external and internal. What else comes to mind for you when you guys hear structural balancing or balancing the structure? Anything else come up? This phrase, in my experience, tends to be a little bit more vague for practitioners. It doesn't quite land. Like, what does that mean? And for clients as well, right? They're like, I don't know what you mean by structural balance. So I'll tell you what I mean, and you guys can add it. Go ahead, Gary. You got something else?
Just looking at the balance between the muscles that need to contract and then the muscles that need to relax, just in general. So we're looking at the strength of the contraction muscles versus the opposites.
Gary, your club coursework is shining through right now. Clearly, you did the master classes that are in there this month. I love this. Isn't it amazing when we can apply the knowledge? I love it. Good for you.
Yeah.
Yes, it does apply to that as well. Like the way the body is designed to move is on a lever system. And we have our master class running right now in our club, maximizing the lever system. So both sides of that lever get to be balanced, not just one side. Hey, Kathy, I'm glad you're here. Freedom of movement restored. Love this. Beautiful. And the freedom of movement, again, is a couple things. One of them is the muscle who's supposed to contract contracting? Is the muscle who's supposed to be lengthening in equal measure? In equal measure. And also, structure to me is the apparatus that makes up the architecture, the bones themselves. Are they in alignment relative to each other? Which those of you who are Schatz method practitioners, you know, we talk about that a lot. It's not chiropractic adjustments, but it is still aligning of the bones. You know, the way they all are arranged together is deliberate. This might look like a haphazard arrangement at first blush, but it's the more you learn about the anatomy and the musculoskeletal components of anatomy, you see that there's very deliberateness on every ridge of every bone and their arrangement and orientation to each other. That matters. Bones to bones, well, these two would be aligned because they're basically fuse, but bones to bones matter. The bones themselves, structural balance, the arrangement between two bones matters. And in addition, it also matters because there's muscles that attach to them that move them. And then the balance of those muscles, the lever that we just talked about, it dictates the type of movement. So it's the structure from the bones to the bones in the relationship to the muscles in the relationship to each other, and the way they create movement at a joint. So these two ideas, structural balancing and the functional movement that comes from that structure, they become intertwined pretty quickly, right? Like if I'm saying that the structure are two bones plus the muscles on those bones, plus the relationship of balance between those muscles and the movement that they create between two bones, that's where movement always happens. Now I'm into the movement part, which is the function part. And now I'm like, well, wait a minute. Am I working on the restored function or am I working on the structure? Which one comes first? It's like a chicken and an egg conversation. Do you guys see that? How it can weave together so close? You're like, I don't know which one to do. Yeah. And so that's our conversation for today. Because they are separate and you guys did so beautifully defining them. This means this and this means this. But when I really start looking deeply at both of them, they actually intersect. And now I don't know what I'm supposed to do as the practitioner, or I could get distracted and forget that I know what to do as the practitioner. So we're going to dive into, well, how do you decide which one's which? How do you decide which one comes first? How do you make that distinction? Anybody here in club seats who've been studying this work in the club this month have a gander? Do you want to take a guess? Do you want to put an idea forthright? Want to put an idea forth on whether it should be balancing the structure or restoring the function? Anything coming to mind for you on what you've learned so far? It's definitely putting you on the hot seat. The courageous ones will unmute. Lisa, yeah.
Well, I'm inclined to think bring balance so that the function works optimally.
Okay, how come? I love this answer. Say more.
How come? Leave it to you. Well, we need to be in balance so we can function. I really
Yep.
don't have any added words.
No, it's good.
Come on, Gary, Cheryl.
Yeah, you did great. Let's keep blooming this one. What do you got, Cheryl?
Optimal function or optimal balance of the structure seems to be what I would think would come first, is what would be needed in order to have optimal function. How come? Because without that alignment, then the muscles that move the bones cannot move in the way that they're designed equally to contract and lengthen, or to contract and lengthen on the opposite side of the lever. If that structure is not balanced, or if it's out of alignment, then the muscles cannot work optimally. So then you will not have good function without that piece.
Okay, great. I love that you asked the follow-up question to yourself, so I didn't have to do it. Well done, Cheryl. Lisa's right. Leave it to me. I always will do that. It's valuable to do that. That's why you brave souls here in the club seats. It's valuable for you to be open to me asking those questions, because what happens then is you have to actually think about what you just said. And when you have to think about what you just said, you're either putting a visual picture in your mind about how you got to that conclusion, or you're actually picturing someone's body and then identifying steps involved from you to them to sort it. So it's really helpful that you're open to me asking that question and then being willing to gander at an answer, because you're actually solving it for yourself. It's not the same as if I just tell you the steps and tell you what it means. And then you listen and only hear 20% of what I said and write down 5% of what I said. Now you don't have the answer actually, but you were present, but you don't actually have the answer. So I love this for you guys. Thanks for being such good role models that you're willing to answer the question and be asked to follow up and answer it. Hey, Jean, I'm glad you're here. Optimal balance alignment can help restore the function. Okay, very good. So we're seemingly all vibing in the same, which is the chicken and which is the egg. Anybody else want to add anything in addition to that? Gary, you got something? Looks like you're processing a possible thought answer here. You're processing. Good. Good, good, good. Yeah, we got to use our think tanks. Okay. Well, I will say well done, Lisa and Cheryl and Jean. Kathy, I know you weighed in as well. Well done. We need to be in alignment. We need to have balance of use of muscles and a balanced lever system. And all of those parts need to be working harmoniously to be able to have full function, for sure, for sure. And once a client comes to us with pain or symptoms, symptoms can be pain, symptoms can be inability to do something, symptoms can be limitations in doing something, symptoms can be compensatory and recruitment patterns, symptoms can be all kinds of things. They don't have to come with pain, but the idea is that it's gone awry. It meaning the optimal design and the way that design is designed to move is now not. Either not in its original designed alignment or not in its original designed function. And when we get to that stage, I've said this a few weeks ago, I called it curtain number 3, right? Curtain number 1 is you know the anatomy. Curtain number 2 is you understand how all the parts move together and what their job is and what their role is and how to encourage that. And curtain number 3 is all of that sounded great, but now it's in a pickle. Now we got a pretzel and something's off, and now I got to sort through how to fix that thing. So for those of us who are here navigating clients with pain or symptoms that don't have to be pain, but they're in the curtain number 3 awry category, once we're here, it requires other thinking. Other thinking than these are the parts and these are what they do, so I make the parts do what they do. Until they're not, and then what do you do? Until they're not, and then what do you do? And that's where you guys come to me, Gina, I have a client with XYZ, what do I do? Okay, it's you need to know the anatomy and how they work, but what to do about it now becomes more of that strategic thinking that I like to talk about, which is again why I'm so happy that you guys allow yourself to like think through it, think through it, think through it. So as I mentioned before, you guys started running through your answers, which are accurate. I also said a few times, chicken and egg. Which is the chicken, which is the egg? Do we restore the function first or do we restore the balance first? And how do you know which is which? At the risk of sounding like I'm not going to answer the question, the answer largely is it depends. It depends on what that awry curtain number 3 looks like. Depends on what your client is presenting with. It requires more of you to be present in the session. And it also requires that you have a whole lot more anatomy and knowledge of how it functions so that you can see the split, the divide between, well, this is how it's supposed to work, but this is how it's actually showing up. That doesn't look like that. Curtain number 3 looks nothing like curtain number 2. Okay, I spy a problem. It does require, to solve the problem, it does require that you have a ton of anatomy and functional anatomy to go by so that you know what it's supposed to look like. And then you'll know if the work that you did return it. That you took the awry curtain number 3 puzzle and you returned it, you restored it. It's no longer lost. We restored it, as you said, Cheryl, back to curtain number 2. You got to know if you fixed it. And in order to know if you fixed it, you need to know what it's supposed to look like when it's, quote, fixed, when it's restored, when it's been returned back to what was lost. So I'm just highlighting this for us because I want you guys to give yourselves an ample enough runway to be able to land the plane, right? Sometimes we get pretty insistent that we want the answer quickly. We want it yesterday. I showed up for an hour of training. Gina, why don't you just give me the freaking answer already? Sometimes we get like that. I understand. Our attention span now is like 4 seconds or something ridiculous. Like we've really just destroyed our attention span. However, for those of us who keep our head in the game and we choose to take ourselves on to think strategically as practitioners, we can't be replaced by a robot. We can't be, because we have the problem solving that only a human can have. And we're willing to hold the line for as long as it takes to get to an answer, which means we're also going to excel far beyond our peers who are losing their attention quickly and not wanting to feel that discomfort that comes from the follow-up questions. They just want to take their trained 4-second attention span and sort of jump to a solution or a tool or a technique or a device in their office. So I really want to applaud you guys. If you haven't, none of you have logged off yet. I can see the live chat and you all are here with me still in the club seats. And I just want to emphasize that even though we don't like have an answer right now, what we're building is enough resilience to be able to get to any answer. And that will make you invaluable to the clients that you serve. I can't stress that enough. There is no fast, easy answer when it comes to working with curtain number 3, when the body's gotten itself into a pickle. And let me emphasize this. That isn't because the body is wrong. It's because of how brilliant it is. That it can try to solve its own problem with such an intricate design and crafty, what we could have never thought of on our own solution or temporary adjunct solution. That's why it's not easy, because of how brilliant the body is. So if we're working with something that's brilliant, we must also be brilliant, which means you got to take yourself on. You can't have a 4-second attention span and expect the answers and click off and go watch another reel somewhere else. That's not going to get you the answer. So I really want to acknowledge you guys who stayed and are still like hungry for it, like really, really brilliant, like really beautiful. Okay. All right. Take a deep breath because we are going to still put our thinking caps on and we're going to work through what I know about curtain number 3 and how it goes awry. And I also want to share with you, I've mentioned a few times here, and I want to make sure we're all in the same conversation. We have been working through the base of curtain number 2. So we have all of our anatomy, and now how does it work? We've been working through curtain number 2 in our practitioner club this month. We did it. We did some of the anatomy and the principles in January and February, and now we're into how does it all come together? How does that curtain number 2 really look? And if that is information that you need to help you get to curtain number 3, please join us in our club. Everybody that you see here on camera is there. That's why they have all these great answers. And you can come and join us for 7 days with no obligation and just get this training. This is a great time to do that, by the way. It's the end of the month. So the coursework that's in for March will be there for this week. And then we'll drop new programming, new coursework in April. So you can come in for a week and get both. So please join us if that appeals to you. All right. Now, in curtain number 3, when it all goes awry, you guys said, well, I think we need to restore the function first. I think we need to get them back to curtain number 2, and then we can move really well. Absolutely. In an ideal setting, which can happen even with a curtain number 3 scenario, in an ideal setting, that would be the easiest way to do it. To do what? Well, you would balance out the lever system. And you guys who are here in the club, you've taken that master class, you know how to do that. You would address the muscles that are supposed to contract, target them, get them to contract. You would address the muscles that are supposed to lengthen and be able to identify if they are. And we know that we don't stretch things. We get them to lengthen in response to a contraction. If that's news and you're here listening and you're like, what is she talking about? That's from our 8 principles, which we also have covered here in Tuesday trainings. And we're going to run that class live again in April. So you'll have access to that both on record, and also live with me. But you want to make sure that you're balancing how is the lever working. And then on top of that, you want to know what is the orientation of bones that create movement where they meet another bone, which is defined as a joint. You want to know what that alignment is meant to be, and you want to know how to address that. If you are a shots method practitioner, obviously I teach you how to do that. If you're not a shots method practitioner, you want to find out how to do that. And if you have tools and skills that are available to you to restore alignment and relationship between bones, go for it. If you don't, make sure that none of us is doing high velocity, high impact, because none of us here is a chiropractor that I know of. If you are a chiropractor and you're here, let me know. But most of the time we're manual and movement practitioners, which means there is no high velocity, high impact. We're not doing skeletal adjustments, none of us. And you still get to arrange the bones in a way where they can be aligned so that muscles can contract and that lever can work. So you want to know how to do that. Again, we did that in the club last month, and there's other training here on Tuesday training. That said, there are times when curtain number 3 shows up, and actually what happens is you can't just balance the lever. There's enough of a reorientation that the body has come up with where there's enough misalignment in bones and enough compensatory and recruitment patterning in the soft tissue that moves those bones that they're actually working against each other at a certain point. The way I like to describe it is the body will make a correction. It'll try to figure it out until it can't do it anymore. And why can't it do it anymore? Not because it's weak and unable. Remember, it's brilliant. The design to correct it was brilliant. But the way that it makes that stopgap solution is by taking the design, curtain number 2, the function and how things move, and it's reassigned slightly the job to someone else, meaning the agonist, the main muscle who's supposed to contract, isn't. So 2 helper bees jump in and do for 2 muscles, what 1 was doing. But now those guys aren't really designed to do the work for the main guy. So they fatigue really quickly and they have to compensate on how they're actually getting the job done. The patterning in the body is close to what it's supposed to look like, but not complete. It's another compensatory pattern of movement. So the pattern of how the movement happens gets adjusted a little bit. And the muscles who are doing that adjusted pattern are also not signed up for the full-time job, and they get fatigued really quickly. And now we've got the body saying, I can't keep doing this distorted version of movement. And even if I could, I can't do it with these muscles because we're spent. We jumped in to help, but we're not supposed to be doing the whole job. Now you're in curtain number 3. So how do you solve that? You've got to figure out what caused it. Why did the body need to make up that new pattern in the first place? What wasn't available? Sometimes what's not available is they just don't know how to do it. Like you literally told someone, as an example, take your arms up over your head. And some people take their arms up over their head this way. And some people take their arms up over their head this way. Well, my shoulders are designed to do that action. I'm using that as an example. If you're a movement practitioner and you ask someone to do a movement, how did they do that movement? The most optimal way or in another version of the way? And then if you're a manual practitioner, you still get to find that out. How did they move or not move that got them into this pain point in the first place? You get to find that out. That's why I said that at the beginning of our talk. What caused the pain in the first place? What caused this scenario behind curtain number 3? And then fix it if you're the movement person. The next thing that you want to know is which muscle is not able to do even the revised version of the movement. Who got too tired? And what did they get too tired of doing? Stabilizing, contracting, or lengthening? What did they stop doing? It's different person to person. Just because I choose a poor form while I'm working out and you have the same form and you're next to me working out, doesn't mean that our muscles are gonna be the same muscles that fatigue. You might be using these two synergist muscles to do the job, and I might be using a weak agonist to do the job. Neither one of us is doing it optimally, but now there's 3 muscles to consider between 2 people. Might not be the same client to client. In order to answer that for yourself, you've got to know reciprocal inhibition. You got to know that curtain number 2, which we already said. And then what's it supposed to do? And what muscle's actually doing it? Who got tired? So once you can sort out, and you just do the same thing with the alignment, the structure, and the function. You just do that all the way down the line. Again, specific to the person in front of you. There's no magic checkbox here. Go ahead, Gary.
Going back to asking the client, how did this happen? It's just so often they say, I just woke up in the morning,
right,
and my back went out. Or, they don't recall a movement. I bent down to pick up the pencil. I mean, it's not even that clear. I just turned my head. Okay. I mean, without, that's all you get in terms of what the client is conscious of.
Absolutely.
So where do you go there? Where do you go then?
I love this question. Lisa and Cheryl, can you guys relate? Yeah, 100%. Guys who are here in the chat, Kathy, Jean, and the rest of you, do you guys recognize this? Like, I don't know, my client told me nothing. Okay, I love this question. We could probably do a training just on that, Gary, because there actually is a way to figure it out. There actually is a way to figure it out. So I'll give us a couple ideas here, and then maybe we will do a training on this actually. The way to figure that out, oh gosh, Gary, now I'm thinking about the answer. I'm so glad you asked this question. The way you figure it out is that same ability to think through everything that you've heard and everything that you know and add it together. It's literally, that's how you get the answer. And again, why we can't be replaced if we actually do think that way. Because you can hear things and know the implications of things based on all of your cumulative curtain 1 plus curtain 2 and your willingness to strive to get the answers in curtain 3. That's how you know the answer. So let me give you an example. A client isn't going to know, and they're not going to know necessarily, again, because the body's brilliant. The body is keeping all of that discomfort from their awareness. What a great friend, right? My body is not telling me right now all the things that it is not ideally happy about. It's just navigating it. Talk about patient and accepting and, all the personality traits that we would all love to think that we are all the time, and we're not, because we get impatient and judgy and whatever. But the body's not. The body's like, no, I am compassionate, and I will just hang out here, and it's okay. You live your life and I'll take care of the muscle that should be doing something different. So again, another reason we don't want to get mad at the body when it shows up with symptoms. So the body's going to figure it out, and it's going to do that over a period of time. And the period of time is again, somewhat subjective. It's dependent on what the person's gone through. But if they have a chronic anything, meaning they have a chronic pattern of movement, they have a chronic weakness, they have a chronic habit, or they have a chronic exercise routine. And chronic doesn't mean bad, it just means regular, right? If they have any one of those, the answer will lie somewhere in whatever they do most often, or whatever they don't do most often. I just had a conversation with someone who said that they were taking yoga 4 days a week for 2 years or year and a half or 2 years and overdid it at the 1.5 year or 2 year mark, they overdid it? No. They didn't overdo it. The body's designed to move. But they thought that they overdid it, and that's how they, quote, herniated a disc. It's not how they were moving or the fact that they were moving 4 days a week in a yoga class. It's what movement pattern were they taking to that mat? What wasn't optimized in the way they were doing the movement? What were they chronically repeating that shouldn't have been part of the plan? And then eventually the body's like, I can't do this anymore. Eventually the body's like, I can't do this anymore, right? So then they wake up one day and put on their shoes and they're like, oh my God, I threw my back out. And you're like, they can't tell me anything. They didn't tell me anything, but they did tell you something because you asked them, what did you do the day before? What did you do the week before? And what do you do most often? Right? And the answer to their question should give you a ton of information. And I'm going to just emphasize this one more time. We don't want to ask those questions like, oh, Gina said, ask this, check, then ask this, check, then ask that, check. What you want to know is, what does their answer imply? What does the answer tell you? Right? Oh, well, I used to run and work out, but now I don't. Okay, well, there's something in there. What they're telling you is they used to move regularly and then they stopped moving regularly. And what you get to decide is, how was that movement? Why did they stop? Did they stop because they were uncomfortable after they were running? Because that'll tell you something in their gait that there was being exaggerated while they were running is really there still. They just slowed down the gait pattern by going from running to walking, but they didn't fix anything. They just stopped insulting it. So you have an answer, how they threw their back out. All I did yesterday was go for a walk with my husband after dinner. And then I woke up this morning and put my shoe on and I can't move. Okay, well, there's something there. They were running, now they're not running. It came after a walk with their husband, which they weren't uncomfortable with. There's something in the gait pattern. Does that make sense to you, Gary?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, awesome. And we did go over our gait masterclass a few months back. I think we did that in December. And you could tell that even though we found like, I'm going to start looking at this person's gait, this made up scenario I just made up. We're going to start looking at that person's gait. Holy smoke, though, there's 13 steps of gait. Okay, well, I know 11. So I'm going to look at those 11 and see where I can optimize that movement. And to your point earlier, Cheryl, where is the gait? Where did they lose one of those steps? And can I just restore that step and add it back in and then restore the function of the whole gait pattern? If you have 11 steps, you have 13 steps of gait, so let's say there's 5, and you take out 1, well, then the whole system is off. So you restore the 1, and now you got to teach all 5 to work together again. There's more to it. You get it? It landed for you, Gary. Good. Yeah. And so for the manual practitioners in the room, we're not just going to stop at releasing a muscle. That doesn't restore function. That's movement. That means all the parts have to work together. You can balance the lever system as a manual practitioner if you're going to do the contracting for them, but you still haven't restored how the parts work together. And the same thing with movement. If you guys are movement providers and you're addressing a part of movement, you need to put it together with the whole movement, all the parts that work at the same time. And the reason you know that is from your 8th principle. The nervous system has to wire and fire all of those things simultaneously. You can't just stretch a muscle and expect it to then figure itself out in gait. It doesn't work like that. That's not how we're designed. That's curtain number 2, right? And again, we're going to go over that class here and that content again in April. Okay, so that's one scenario of what if the client doesn't tell me anything. They actually did. They didn't tell you specifically and they didn't connect the dot, but you connected the dot, right? You hear what they said and what the implication is around what they said. That makes you a strategic thinker, and that's how you can solve problems. Is that landing for you guys? Yeah. Lisa and Cheryl, you're looking very thoughtful. What's coming up for you? Anything?
No, I mean, I'm just thinking it through as you're talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
thinking,
good.
just, okay, great. Yeah, I know sometimes what can happen is you'll think of an example, a client case example, which is perfect. And then you kind of put that all together. So that's great. Just to make sure you guys were still with me. And how are you guys doing here on YouTube? Are you guys following along? Any questions or things clicking? If it's clicking, give me a thumbs up. Let me know that it's clicking. All right. So I'm going to give us one more viewpoint on the structural balance versus restored function. Like I said, it's case by case, and we have to figure out which is which one's the chicken and which one's the egg, which one caused what. And that is a little bit of a process of elimination on all of the information that you have in curtain number 2. So let's say, for example, let's use our made up client again. They threw their back out putting on their shoe in the morning, and we have a glimmer that something in their gait is going on. Okay, great. Well, what we want to find out then is what caused the gait to go wrong. Was it that they weren't aligned and that's why part of their gait went awry? Or is it that they weren't using their body the way they were supposed to? And when they engaged muscles alternately to how they were designed, those alternate contractions and levers pulled bones out of alignment. Which is it? Muscles move bone. So even when you think that it's a chiropractic adjustment that's needed, and I urge you to consider that most of the time it's not, sometimes it is, absolutely, and most of the time it's not. But when bones are out of alignment, how did they get out of alignment? Because bones don't move by themselves. Muscles move them. So what were the muscles doing? And did what the muscles doing create the misalignment in the bones? You got to figure that out with the person that you're with. And there's definitely ways to make that easier. You just workshop it out and practice it. That's when we're working with client work and like actual case studies. And again, you want to have enough anatomy, curtain number 1, and how that anatomy works together, balance levers, etc., and principles of anatomy, curtain 2, so that you can figure out which one came first. And figuring out which one came first is always unique to the person in front of you at the time. It's possible, for example, that someone could have over-gardened, oversat before spring, and their glute max is not engaging the way it should, and their lumbar paraspinals are lengthened from sitting slouched and hovering over their garden. So now I have no posterior chain that's going to contract the way it should. So when I throw my back out, I might not know what happened. But as a practitioner, I can tell. You need to balance the lever to make sure the front's lengthening and the back is contracting, and then it can flip, that the front can contract and the back can lengthen, and that's even. That's restoring the function. That's making the lever work. However, I need to also know that perhaps in the sitting posture where the lumbar curve was reversed and the tail was tucked under in both seated position and gardening, that now what's happened is there's not enough strength here because the posterior chain wasn't contracting and the muscles were pulling on the bones long enough that now the arrangement of the bones is also out of alignment. So now when I go to contract the posterior chain, those muscles can contract if I remind them how to do that because they're wired to, but they'll have a harder time contracting while these bones are out of alignment. And we know that from maximizing the lever system. So that's when it starts to sound like, well, gosh, Gina, it's like a chicken and an egg. Which one is it? Exactly. Exactly. It's when it's all gone awry. You're in curtain number 3. And all you need to know going into a curtain number 3 scenario, AKA a client who comes in with symptoms, all you need to know is that it could be the chicken or the egg, and you need to know clearly both, so that as soon as you start giving input to the body will tell you, no, that's not what I need. Yeah, I know you're targeting glute max. I know I should be contracting right now, says the body, but I can't. And you're like, why not? Is it because the other side of the lever won't let you? Or is it because the bones aren't aligned and you can't? They're different answers, but both are possible. And if I know that both are possible when I go in, I'll be able to find it. Does that make sense to you guys? Do you think you could find it too, now that I'm laying it out in this way? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Fantastic. What about you guys on YouTube? Do you guys think you could find it now that I've laid it out in that way? Yes, yes. I hope so. Okay. So let me turn it over now to you guys. Any other questions that you have? Any other questions that you have while you were using your gorgeous strategic thinking brains, which you know lights me up? Anything else come to mind for you on whether we should restore function or whether we should balance structure? Kathy and Jean, it's working for you? Beautiful. I'm so happy. When the question comes to you now, do you restore the function or do you balance the structure first? Same question we started with at the beginning. What is your answer? Should you restore the function or should you balance the structure? Which comes first? Is it the same or did you change your answer?
Kind of feels like it's blended more together now.
Oh, darn it.
No, in a good way. Like
you're
trying to do both, you know, you're trying to do both. You just got to figure out where to start.
Yes. Okay. Anybody else? Did you change your answer? Do you have more clarity or did it just get confusing?
But it is like the chicken and the egg, you know. It's like you got to identify what function isn't happening, you know, and that might be going to the structure and balancing it, but it may also be first figuring out what function's not working. So identifying it. So it is kind of like that, you know, cyclical, you're going around and, you know, trying to figure it out.
Okay, great. You too, Lisa?
Yeah, when you go and find out glute max isn't working, then you're like, okay, where do I go now? And so you have to go looking for that. And it's cyclical at times until you can get them all back to a balance.
Yes.
And then you can work
Oh, she froze.
them so that they function.
Yes. Yep, exactly. What about you, Gary?
So if you just start somewhere,
Yeah.
and you're getting feedback, and that feedback is it's not in the muscles, it's in the alignment, you go in that direction. So can you make a mistake? Yeah, but maybe it just slows down the resolution process. In other words, well, I went to alignment first and it didn't seem there. So now I'm back to, looking at the muscle function. Or if I started with the muscles and you're saying, well, glute max can't fire, then I'm starting to look at alignment issues or the opposite side of the muscle system. So I think is it critical where you start? If you're thinking through it, I don't know.
Well, critical.
Is it critical?
Yeah, I don't know that it's.
I mean, can you make it? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I think there's a time delay. Finish what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, can you make a mistake? No, but it may just slow down that process of strategic thinking, I guess. That's what I'm trying to get through my head.
Right. And that slowing it down, while is not, life-threatening to anybody involved, it is career thwarting. Because this is what happens. When you slow down your results, you start doubting your effectiveness. When you slow down your results for your client, they can still leave you and go hurt themselves even more because they feel a little bit better having left your space, but they're not actually restored back to curtain number 2, which means they're still highly suspect to injure themselves further, especially once they're symptomatic. And when one or both of those things happen, they don't come to you as often, you don't create as many results, and then you wonder if you're still good. So there is a reason to get good. But nobody died if you aren't. If you're doing, pretty good, they feel better, that just doesn't stay. Nobody's life ended. But long term, that's not a good plan, especially if you're really invested in resolving orthopedic issues for your clients and you really do want to be a practitioner as a career. You want to create successes as frequently as possible for both you and them, because not doing that long term has detrimental side effects. And that's why you guys are here every week, and I get that. Kathy, you changed to assessing first. Great. Ask more questions. Yep. There's I like to joke that the rookie massage therapy intake is, hey Gina, what brings you in today? We focus on any place special? Oh, your shoulder? Okay, lay belly up for me. I'll be right in for you. Is not an intake. It's barely a greeting. It doesn't give you enough information to solve anything. And then they're passive on the table, which means you have no knowledge of curtain number 2. You don't know how they're moving, how they did move, or what can't move when they're laying on your table. They're literally not moving. So you have no knowledge of curtain number 2 massage therapists, if that's what's going on. And if you're a personal person, I was going to say a personal movement person, if you're a movement practitioner and you have them moving right away and they've been with you for a while, they're going to move the same way this week that they patterned themselves to move last week. And if you don't have really sharp visual assessment skills, you might miss it, that the way they're moving actually isn't working. It's just getting the job done, but it's not curtain number 2 movement. It's the body's adaptation of movement. You're like, no, they had a great workout. Okay, well, did you see all the things? So we want to all get better. We want to all get better, whether you're a movement or a manual practitioner. And that doesn't mean become the other. I've had some people say, oh, well, you're saying I need to be a massage therapist. I never said that. And I didn't tell massage therapists you need to go get yoga certification. In fact, sometimes that just confuses things for you. It doesn't create more clarity. All I'm saying is we all need the same information. We're just going to address it and handle it differently, but the same information is needed in both camps. Okay, awesome. So our last pin for today, for those of you who are here and you're pinning, that's beautiful. I want to also mention our annual summit is happening April 15th, 16th, and 17th. So we're very excited. We have a packed panel of speakers. Please reserve your seat so that you can get all the goodness. I put together probably the widest variety of practitioners I have in the 5 years that we've been doing this annual summit. So there's literally something for everybody, which I say every year and I mean it, but now we're getting into like even more detailed stuff that we've never had before, which is very exciting. So both manual and movement practitioners, I've got more than 2 handfuls for you. And every one of the speakers who's coming agreed to also contribute to the daily gives. So what that is, if you've come to a summit before, you'll remember the summit's during billable hours. It's 11:30 to 2:30 Eastern. So in most time zones, that means you're working or you're sleeping. And so, Gary, you're going to put that not here in Zoom, but you're going to put it under the YouTube video. And congratulations. So you're either sleeping or just during billable hours. So I always give extra training during that time to be like, look, I see you, I get you. I know you're here to invest in yourself. So we're going to give you more. And every speaker agreed to the same thing. So if you can come live, please do mark off that time. It'll be worth it for you. And if you can't, absolutely serve your clients first. You can catch some of the other speakers live, and the replays will always be available for you for 24 hours. So please do come, reserve your seat. And that Tuesday, the 15th of April, we will not be here for Tuesday training because we're going to all be at the summit. So at least I know for that hour, if you're usually here live with me, you can be there live with me there and then get some of the training that's there. And then every speaker also has their downloadables. So it's just going to be great. You guys, we're just going to be like floating and inspired and lit up and ready to go. And I'm of course going to be right there with you. We're going to be meeting for those of you who do the upgrade. We're going to be meeting every day after the event. So I'll be able to decompress with you and synthesize and what to focus on and how not to get overwhelmed, because that's also something that happens. You just get so much poured into you. You're like, I don't know how to piece all that together. So we'll be doing some extra training after the event in the green room. So anyway, I hope to see you guys at least live at the summit. We will not be here for Tuesday training on the 15th. We will be at the summit. And for those of you who are coming to the upgrade, I will absolutely see you at the green room space afterward. Okay, guys, that's it for me today. I will look forward to seeing you guys for Tuesday training next week. All right, bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you.